The fire actually got started way before our typical fire season. I mean, we're ready, we're getting ready, and we're thinking we have a month or two ahead of time before the lightning season starts. When a day very much like today, it was very cold, it was very dry, very high winds, and it caused some electrical lines just north and west of Waycross to spark. And that spark hit, and that fire started what's called a Sweat Farm Road fire.
Within a couple of days, you know, it was 1,200 acres and growing. I mean, just by leaps and bounds, it was growing. And that wind that broke that power line, it just kept on. And they swept down across the swamp, you know, of course, fanned up the fire that was burning too. And as it swept down into the swamp, it popped some lightning in a line all down in the swamp. It lit up an area in Floyd's Island Prairie. It lit up a couple of spots out on Bugaboo Island. And at that point, you know, we had, you know, different fires going within the swamp itself. It was something, you know.
The conditions were such that it was going to be hard to control. I mean, Georgia, from the initial start of the fire, all they could do was just kind of follow up the flanks, the two edges of the fire. They couldn't get out in front of it and do much because it was just spotting so far out ahead of itself. And we knew it had potential given the conditions, weather conditions that we had to get really big. It ran from the initial start 12 miles to the refuge boundary. So that was a pretty big fire before it ever entered the refuge.
If it wasn't for droughts and fires and floods, the Okefenokee would just evolve into basically a forested bog with a lot less diversity than we have right now. So it's integral to the health and long-term viability of the Okefenokee swamp and the wilderness area to have fire and droughts and floods. It's what makes it, you know, so unique and beautiful.
From a refuge standpoint, again, the Okefenokee swamp needs fire to maintain itself. And in that sense, it was a big help for the refuge. It actually opened up areas that had been encroached by years and years of growth, you know, without fire.
It spread all of that, you know, nitrogen all over the landscape. It was really interesting when the fire had passed. You could tell that everything had received this dusting of ash. The grass all around it never has been greener than it was, you know, later on that summer after the rainfall, you know, laid that ash down in the grass. It was, you know, it did what we know it does. It created a nutrient release that acted like a fertilizer to the entire ecosystem. All of that ash buffers that acid water a bit. And so as the rains returned, the water levels returned, we saw a bit of a bump in the pH, and you see it reflected in the fishery. So there's some, you know, there's the obvious benefits you get of, you know, the fire opening up those habitats like the prairie, where it just physically opens things up and creates an environment that's particularly conducive to, say, sandhill cranes. But that chemical bump is maybe less obvious, but actually perhaps more significant overall to the overall functioning of this landscape.
And if it wasn't for the Osceola National Forest and their prescription burning program that removed they treated thousands of acres of forest lands just prior to the fire to remove the fuel load. And a number of communities that really had got ahead of the curve the year before and did a wildfire wise community kind of fire planning, where they really look at their community and look at the edges of it and reduce fuel. That stopped that fire from going into Lake City.
Well, it takes what we call a season-ending event. We have to have enough rain to actually put the fire out. Inside the perimeter of the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, you know, most of this is a swamp ecosystem. We do have some pine uplands around the edge, and we do also have some pine islands in the interior, but the majority of it is swampland, which has a lot of organic soils, peat. And as the drought progresses, these layers of peat begin to dry out, and these fires get entrenched in that peat, and it's something that we just can't put out. I mean, we have attempted to and spent tens of millions of dollars and never put it out. We just had to wait on what we call a season-ending event, which could be anywhere from a 5 to 6 inch rainfall.